Greetings to you all, and of course, I welcome you to this broadcast. Thank you. Thank you so much to those who are or would be joining, those who would view via YouTube and Facebook live, and also if you may watch the replay. I'm grateful. As promised, a medical doctor is here with us this evening. I am by no means one. I do not claim to be one, which is why we would seek to have the wisdom of these people. Years are spent dedicated to studying um, human beings and have an understanding of how we operate even in death. And so joining me this evening would be an individual who or in whom I have great confidence, one who is unafraid to speak that which is medically true. And that's important. This individual does not reside in Guyana. He has no connection to the administration or government or opposition or anything having to do with this country. This is just someone who has an interest in speaking the truth or seeking to help us to understand. I'm thankful to those who've joined us here again, and please, if you do not mind, let me know whether you hear me clearly on both YouTube and on Facebook. I would greatly appreciate that feedback. Our guest is here with us this evening. He's already in studio, ready and raring to go. We must have clarity. And this which is being done by this doctor should have been done or should be done by other medical professionals. The reason being, actually, let me turn some comments on so you can see on both platforms. The reason why it's important to have medical professionals speak to us, it helps those who are not so inclined or do not have that understanding or skill in that area to have an understanding of what is really before us. So when I would have seen Adriana's body positioned in the pool as though she were standing, I was concerned. I was troubled. I greatly questioned the fact that someone can drown in that position in a pool where there's no current. And within 24 hours, the doctor speak to us about that as well. When you rot, what are the gases that are emitted within your body when decomposition steps in, which would cause bloating, and the trapping of gases under your skin would cause the object of the being to float. But when I observed Adriana's body, her midsection, her neck, and so on, there was no sign of bloating, especially in the midsection. And I became very, very concerned about that. I reached out to this doctor to say, please help us, because Guyanese need answers. People across the world need to know. This has been a global, um, in reference to our awareness, a matter that has reached global proportions. Many people across the world have begun to say they need justice for Adriana. And this has become a very, very significant issue. Hence, I have with me Dr. Leonardo Culmer. One, I say again, who is unafraid to speak that which he knows to be medically sound and accurate. Someone who has absolutely no connection to any political party or administrative, we may call it the government of Guyana. No connection. He is therefore free to speak, as all should be, about this matter. Now, if you do not mind, please tag someone, invite someone, share the broadcast with someone, because they need to be here to hear this evening about that which we speak. Therefore, I shall now present to you Dr. Culmer, Dr. Leonardo Culmer. He would tell us, first of all, about his qualifications, because it's important for us to know that. We need to know in what area is he skilled? How many years did he have been involved in the medical field? Has he ever seen someone who has died Believe me, those questions become important. And so, Dr. Culmer, I must welcome you um, to Guyana
Thank
virtually.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here with us this evening.
I don't know if you're going by Apostle London, Pastor London, person
Night.
who's looking out for the betterment of the people of the community London, all of the above.
Exactly whatever you're comfortable with, I'm fine with.
Yes.
Nigel is my name, and I'm your
Yeah.
brother.
Amen. Amen. So, um, well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me on. Just actually walked in the house a couple of moments ago from work and got your call and was very happy to jump on. I'm Dr. Leonardo Culmer, hail from the archipelago of the Bahamas, where there are 700 islands, and very happy to be here. Unfortunately, under such circumstances, I would have wanted to be here under circumstances where we could have actually laughed. But these circumstances are pretty serious and dire. I have been a physician for about 16 to 17 years, medical school, and training in the hospital facilities for a number of years. Had a significant stint in the pediatrics, internal medicine, significant stint, and for the last, I want to say, 10 years or so, working in a number of emergency rooms um, as the lead physician. Have I seen persons that have passed? Obviously. Um,
Yeah,
as a junior doctor, um, we have the dubious distinction of being the second person to see persons that have passed, and the first distinction goes to our grave nurses, who are the ones that's calling us at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning to see patients, and so we get to see them taking their last breaths. We get to see people 5 minutes afterwards, and then we get to see them 5 to 10 hours. In some interesting circumstances, 5 hours afterwards.
wow.
So, very familiar with death, very familiar with what death looks like. Um, I am, as a disclaimer, I'm not a pathologist, but you don't need to be uh, to have basic information about physiology, which is how the body functions. Um, and physiology, the opposite of physiology is pathophysiology, which is what happens when things go wrong. Um,
Yeah,
I am known as a diagnostician. I'm very detailed uh, with respect to what it is that I do, and patients come to me for that reason because I not only love medicine, but I love people, and so I'm happy to be a part of
yeah,
this company.
yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, doctor. And that's important because I asked you whether you've seen anyone who would have died, and biologically speaking, because it will lend itself to this discussion about which we're about to have. Because you spoke to sometimes 5 hours later, you may encounter a patient, probably more than that,
Hmm.
and that's important because it introduces the concept or the scientific principle of rigor mortis.
Right.
And when I would display for you um, images of the body of this young lady, she's 11 years old. I know that you have daughters, so do I. And
Yeah.
this touched me differently when I saw an 11-year-old child. She was missing from the 23rd of April. She went to swim in the pool, not in the ocean, not in a river. She was in a swimming pool, which I'll show you. And in this pool, after a while, they said they couldn't find her. She left to go somewhere and she couldn't be found. Her relatives said that, and others said they searched the pool extensively on numerous occasions and they couldn't find this young lady.
Right.
That was the 23rd of April, all night. That's about 1:30, 1:35 in the afternoon. The following day, the 24th of April, they stood there all night into the next morning at about 10 or so sometime in the day, when people were engaging the police officers on the road. I just want to paint a picture for you. They were
Please.
in the main road, in the main public road, and the pool was, I estimate, about 100 feet or so away from the public road. So people were being engaged by the policemen with shields and so on. So they were being aggressive, saying, "But we need the girl." Then a cry rang out, and that cry rang out to say that this girl was found in the pool. Please allow me to show this first video to give you an idea as to what I'm speaking about. This is the first video here. Please pardon the profanity. People were hyper, they were mad, expectedly so. And they're
That's
not saints, as we call Kodeshim. Okay? Um,
Them police girl in this pool, boy. The fucking girl that went in there, we went in there just now, boy. What the fuck, boy? That's why they didn't want nobody come in the place. Them didn't want nobody come in the place. What? What?
so that's what our experience would have been like. This day, the 24th of April, would be etched in the memory of so many people across the world, especially Guyanese. This is what we saw. And I call her my daughter. This is what we saw happen to our daughter. She's in this position. Now, I want to show you, doctor, when this child, her father dove into the pool because people were stunned. He dove expectantly so, grabbed his daughter and pulled her up, or they pulled her up to the side of the pool. So she was in the water. Then they brought her out. This is what we saw when she got out. Now, I asked you as to whether you'd have seen a patient who would have been died, passed away, as a matter of fact, or dead for an extended period of time. There's something called rigor mortis that steps in. But I looked when I saw the video, when the father, the people pulled her up on the side of the pool, her leg, her knee bent over the decking, the side of the pool. Please speak to that. If someone could have passed away for 20, because she's missing for about 20 hours. The claim that some are making is that this girl was always in this pool. We get to the pathologist in a minute. They said that she was always in the pool, that people have said. Others said, no way. Now, I saw somebody who they claimed to be in the water for 20 hours, but when the father and others, when she got up to the side of the pool, her knees were bent. Or they bent. So please help us to understand what happens at rigor mortis and if this is possible in someone who would have died for 20 hours.
what is her name again?
Her name is Adriana.
Okay. And
Adriana.
her parents are I see it says young. Her parents are
Yes,
young.
Adriana Young. Correct. Her
So
father is Adriana Young.
first and foremost, I want to extend my deepest condolences to the parents um, under such circumstances. It's we are praying for their strength. Um, there are no words. There are no words to extend as to what has happened. And if they are hearing this, you have our prayers and our condolences. We cannot imagine what you would have been going through. Um, as you know, my personal story, and you can feel free to discuss it if you like. Maybe at the end of this,
Yes.
deeply and intimately, uh, uh, I'd like to say, with tragedy. And so it breaks my heart to see this. Okay, let's put on the scientific hat now. So putting aside everything else that is very emotional for me at this particular moment and for you, let's look at it. The way things work physiologically is there's something in your body called muscles, and the muscles have sarcoplasma, which has calcium. And the sarcoplasma, along with the calcium, um, is powered by the mitochondria. as everything else is in the body. The sarcoplasma calcium, actin, and myosin, which are very small nano subunits or particles of the muscle fibers, the smallest subunits of those muscle fibers. They act in unison to cause what we call cross bridging and the cross bridging and relaxing. So without the mitochondria, the sarcoplasmic reticulum doesn't work. The cross bridging, which allows for
They're asking for you to
contraction.
speak up a bit, please. Sorry about that, Doc. They're asking for you to speak up a little bit. Just project a bit more for them.
We bring it a
You're
bit
a
more.
preacher. Yeah.
I have a mic on, my voice is very soft. So the cross bridging that
Good. That's
allows,
good.
perfect. So I'll just kind of start with the muscle's smallest subunit is made up of something called actin and myosin, and you can look it up, which is powered by the mitochondria. The actin and myosin receives calcium, which controls cross-bridging and relaxation to allow contraction and subsequent relaxation of the muscles. If there is no energy available, the mitochondria are no longer producing ATP via oxidative phosphorylation. Then the sarcoplasmic reticulum, the actin and or myosin, will no longer be able to relax. That process, the prevention of relaxation, is the genesis of what we call rigor. Rigor means tight, mortis. I hope that made sense. The timeline for that, there are many pieces of literature, and we've studied it over the years, but between 4 to 6 hours that occurs. So what's critical here is for us to understand the timeline. Let me say what
Good.
rigor mortis is. Rigor mortis is where the muscles are not able to relax. As I said, the mitochondria is responsible for causing calcium to be released so that the small subunits of the muscles can cause the cross-bridging to relax. When you die, the mitochondria no longer offers that energy, so the cross-bridging remains in place and the muscles become very tense. They don't relax. It's called rigor mortis. It's so tight that you feel it, you could barely move it. It's so tight to the point that at times when it happens, pathologists, medical examiners, persons that deal with the bodies afterwards have to actually break the joints in order to get certain individuals out of abnormal postures so
You
that
have
they
to
can
break
fit
the joints.
in. Yes. Because if it's in an abnormal posture, if someone is in an abnormal posture, it's hard for them to fit into the units that they're placed, that the body is placed in after death. Hands should be straightened to the side, legs should be straightened. Imagine
Right.
you like
Right.
this, your knees are all up, or
Right.
right? You see the photo again. So with that said, let's consider the length of time. If you go to 15 pieces of literature, they'll all say something a little different, but the time is between 4 to 6 hours where it onsets. And so we're looking at, you said, the 23rd at 1 p.m. Just to ask a couple of questions so that I'm clear. What is the expected time of death?
No one.
Because whatever that time is, you're looking at 4 to 6 hours.
Right. That's our trouble in this country. in that we are sitting here almost 1 month would have passed and nobody can tell us that the president of Guyana said that 3 pathologists who came here, we get into that later on, relate to him in some way. We have nobody seen this report apart from him and others that nobody seemed to know who's read it. It's not there. But that nobody put her into the pool. Hence, the suggestion is that she was always there. She went missing at 1:30 p.m., 1:30 p.m. or 1:33. Let's say even if it's 2 p.m. on the 23rd. They found her at about after 9 or after 10, at about 10 o'clock on the 24th.
10
Hence, they're
a.m.
saying she was a.m. They said she was
Okay,
missing for about 20 hours. 20 hours. Now,
20
if
hours.
the argument is that she was always in this pool, I was wondering how could it be that when she was removed from the pool,
That's what you
this
and I are
happened to
going to
her
look at right
knees?
now. So we
Right.
like I said, the picture and the story evokes a lot of emotion. But I'm going to speak completely scientifically, right?
Please.
So you're telling me the supposition here is that there's 20 hours worth of time between when she was last seen and when she was found. The secondary supposition is that she was in the pool for 20 hours. So let's say she swam for an hour. Let's say she was able to hold herself up without getting to the side of the pool. Let's say she kind of swam for an hour. So let's give her 19 hours. If she had been drowned or she died 19 hours ago, because I don't think a child is going to be able to swim for 2 to 3 hours. Is that fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay. So a child wouldn't be able to swim for 2 to 3 hours. If she had drowned at 19 hours, then if you take 6 away from 19, I don't know.
13
How much do
hours.
you have? How much is that? Is
13
that
hours.
okay? So if what you're saying is that she was then secured, her body was found more than 10 hours subsequent to her death, then I have some questions about the photo you just showed me. The first obvious question is, did the persons who secured her and placed her on that particular part of the pool, did they, with a lot of pressure, bend her legs so that at the knee joints it would be bent?
No. At least I saw no one doing that. I
So
just
I
observed what happened to her body when she was pulled out of the water.
So when they pulled her body out, obviously she had to be completely stiff, and her knee joints would have been, the only other thing I can think of is that she would have been completely in rigor, because obviously it's more than 12 hours. So she's in rigor, and somehow her joints are at that 45-degree angle, so it perfectly fits the curvature of the pool. That's
Wow.
going with the hypothesis of her having died the day before. That's just
Wow.
with me inspecting it after 30 seconds and hearing the story. So just looking at her knee joints alone, I can tell you that there are some very striking questions.
So you are about 1 month removed from this situation.
Mhm.
And given your basic, I don't want to say it's basic for you, but given the basic understanding of the human being and how we function even when we would die. For 13 hours, that's twice the period of time on average for rigor mortis to step in. This young lady, this baby was pulled out of the pool. Her knee slumped. I looked at her body, her head was limping, her father's pulling her. I said, something is wrong here. Immediately, we're told that the pathologist who came to Guyana, one from Mount Sinai, they claim I searched for him, and that's another thing I can't find this person. When I look for this individual, I am not pulling up his ID for whatever reason. That's another story. There's one from Maryland. and another from Barbados. They were brought here by the government of Guyana, and three pathologists said that they could not determine. That's what we're being told. They could not determine the a range in reference to time of death. One who's trained in science, not medical science, I became worried about that conversation because I'm saying, you're 1 month away from this. I was sitting here saying, how can you not? Because I can look at a video of her father taken her out to the pool, and I saw her body was limp, which means I can say, tell me if I'm right, please, doc. I can say, well, she would not have been dead for 6 hours because I see her limbs still being mobile. Is that a safe thing to
Okay.
say from a
So
layman's point of view?
that's absolutely correct. And it's a very, very safe thing, and it is the most rational thing to say. I'd be hard pressed, and you'd have to sit me down for a good 15 to 20 minutes and explain how is it that someone who's been dead for more than 4 to 6 hours is presenting with lower and upper limbs, extremities that are quite flexible and limp. It almost appears as though that body, that individual, did not die for the length of time that we are anticipating or we were told. It's almost appearing as though it's quite less than that 4 to 6 hour period, because your body's not supposed to be limp. I'll tell you what happens to us on the wards, and if you ever come in contact with some junior doctors, they'll tell you the stories. Nurses work very hard, and there's 16 to 20 people on the ward. And if there's a person way at the end of the ward, you get a call at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, someone who's really sick. And the nurse says, well, you know, we did our rounds at 12 midnight and came back at 6 a.m. and he was not breathing or she was not breathing. And I would confirm with them, Dr. Culmer, are you going to code this patient, push on their chest and everything? No, nurse. Why? We just found them. They're not breathing. Their pulses are
Mm.
non. They don't have a pulse. I said, nurse, the patient is in rigor mortis.
Ah,
So the last time you saw Mr. Jones was at 12 midnight. Mr. Jones has been dead. It is now 6 a.m. Mr. Jones died either 1 hour or shortly after you saw him.
wow.
Okay, so back to what we were saying, and that happens. That happens. Okay, back to what we were saying. You have an individual that is being purported to have passed 20 hours prior, and the limbs, upper and lower limbs, are still
Hmm.
very supple and flexible to
Yeah.
the point where unintentionally the individuals rested her body on the pool deck and did not rest her completely so that her legs
Right.
would be straightened out. Had they not done that, you and I wouldn't have been having this conversation. But somehow,
Wow.
for whatever reason, they chose to rest her, and her legs were not completely on the pool. They were beyond the pool, and her knees bent and flopped over. That is not rigor mortis. That's the first thing.
That's, and I wish I can spend eternity with you having this discussion because you're really helping the audience. I'm scanning their comments. I see nurses here saying that they agree with you. Um, so I don't have time to doubt what you're saying, but this is bringing relief to many people. Because a narrative or a story being told to a population becomes very dangerous when one is being told how to think, regardless of your expertise, regardless of your knowledge. They're saying this is how you ought to think. So we go into another thing that we aspect in reference to how we're told to think. Look at the arms of this child. Let me show her face actually. Maybe grotesque,
Okay.
but please. Look at the face
Yes.
of this, our baby here.
Yes.
And there's something thick. People said it was cotton wool. The president again, and others said, no, that wasn't cotton wool. That would have been fraud. They bubbles in her nostrils. Now I saw a guy drown about 3 days later, a few days after. and there were bubbles in his nostrils after 10 hours of being submerged. I have video footage of that. I don't want to show it, but people know what I'm talking about. But I looked at her face. I looked at her arms, and I saw even her part of her legs. And this troubled me because the discoloration, we were told initially that, listen, this is synonymous or in keeping with or a reflection of drowning, prolonged exposure in water. And I'm saying now, this troubles me because I used to swim like a little fish. I spent hours in water, swimming all day with my friends. But this has never happened to me or anybody, where whatever's in this water was so selective that it only affected a part of her body. Now we see her stomach here, doctor. Please speak to us about that. Look at her face again, because this is bothering me. This is her, look at her neck. Why would there be discoloration just one part? Her kneecaps? I'm troubled here. And please help us if you can with this discoloration, the bleaching of her skin.
I'm prided by most of my clients for the doctor who says, I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense to me with respect to what would happen in the course of death, or what would happen in the course of one who would have died as a result of submersion. There is a very clear path that occurs as a result of death underwater, or if a person is actually submerged for a long time. Most people on this chat, including you, would know what happens when electrons flow from one area high to low.
Yeah.
And that's technically what's happening. You have a situation where there's a high concentration of electrons. And if they're flowing from high to low, if you stay in water, albeit salt water, for long periods of time, your hands become, the term they call is wilted.
Yes,
right?
a washerwoman effect.
Washerwoman effects.
Yeah.
So you can stay in the water for 8 to 10 to 12 hours. It causes a washerwoman effect. Am I saying it right? Wilted
Correct.
washerwoman. That's electrons just flowing from high to low. For that to happen to your skin selectively, in selective areas, in other words,
Yeah.
it leaves the skin, right? So you're showing it. What's puzzling to me, and I'm sorry, I don't have the answers, but I'm just going to throw out some puzzling things here. What's puzzling to me, if you look at her right arm, is that a band around her arm or something? Is that
A band, yes, a VIP band.
a VIP
Just
band?
forget,
Okay.
have permission to swim in the pool.
Okay. So that discoloration of her skin at that arm is selectively on the right arm, right? But it leaves
Correct.
a long trace, a clear piece of skin in the middle. So I'm not sure why the salt water would take a decision to leave that piece on that
And
arm.
it's not, sorry, doc, it's not salt water. She was in the pool. So
Forgive
this
me.
is just
Salt
very clean
water,
water.
pool water. I'm not
Right.
sure. Why would it leave all the skin on the right thigh? And I can't see her tummy, but I'm not seeing the skin completely removed from her tummy. Why would it leave the skin on her shoulders and her left arm and just remove it from the hand on the left side?
Wow.
Apologize, I can't see it very, very clearly, but this water, this pool water, seems to be behaving selectively.
Wow.
I have no answers. I just have questions there. I have no idea why that's behaving that way. It doesn't seem consistent with what would happen. You see, because let's go back to it again. The mitochondria supplies energy to every cell.
Correct.
So you're not going to have extra energy to the chest, to the pigmentation of the skin cells of the chest, or the thighs, or the left arm over the right arm, in that the energy is gone so that the cells are removed just from this area and that
Right.
area, but these cells are still full of energy and intact. It doesn't make sense. This is all peeled away, but these are fine. This is fine. And then the face. I'm not sure. It almost looks chemical. I don't know. Is it an asphyxiation? Let me talk about something that I do know, because I'm saying too much I don't know. If someone drowns, their lungs is filled with water.
Right.
And by definition, what happens in drowning is that that water completely covers the residual volume of the lungs, the alveoli. Now, residual volume is something strange. Most people are not aware of it. If you take in a breath and you breathe out, that's a normal breath. If you take in the biggest breath you can and you breathe out, as much as you want to breathe out, there's still air left in
Yeah.
your lungs. That air is called the residual volume.
Okay.
When the supreme one, the creator, when he created you, he created your alveoli similar to balloon sacs. So if you take a balloon and you try to blow it open, it's going to take a lot of pressure. But as soon as you get a bit of air in it, you'll notice you just have to, and it'll blow right up. The
Yes.
reason why the alveoli, the air sacs in the lungs behave that way is because they're covered with something called surfactant that keeps them open. Because if they close, you will not
Wow.
have sufficient amount of oxygen and pressure to push inside of your lungs to open them again. Drowning is where there's so much fluid in the alveoli that it has displaced all the fluid, displaced all of the air. The heart no longer receives the oxygen, and so you suffocate. There are people who they drown on dry land because they have
Right.
heart failure or lung failure. They drown on dry land. So if
Wow.
you drowned, fluid, air, bubbles, froth actually comes up and it comes through the nose, through the mouth, for somebody that would have, an individual that would have drowned. I don't know if you guys saw that when she was originally taken out of the water. Is
This is
that,
what we saw.
I can't really see it well, to be quite honest, but I'm assuming that that is not bubbles, that's not water. I'm not sure what that
No.
is.
People started shouting it was cotton wool. I'm speaking
Cotton.
to just what we heard on the videos, because I wasn't there in person. So I'm just speaking from what I heard people say. They were saying this is cotton wool. They have cotton wool stuffed in their nose. That troubled me because, as I said, a few days after this, a man drowned. I went to see him. His family requested that I would do videos and so on, for them to have evidence of what happened. And I saw when they took the man out of the pool, after 10 hours, he was like a brick, extremely stiff, first thing. Secondly, there were bubbles still coming out of his nostrils.
Wow.
Bubbles, you saw
So,
bubbles bubbling. This is all we saw with this girl. There was just this thick white stuff, and it cannot be found today. I don't know where it went. It just disappeared.
well, I will tell you, her face looks as though it has had some sort of chemical peel. It's either that or there has been some sort of asphyxiation where we know drowning causes a decrease in oxygen, but understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
Um, some sort of chemical, or she did not get oxygen, and for whatever reason, it affected just this part of the face. I can't see that the other side.
Right.
But,
Wow.
and if you look up at the top of the head, there is what appears to be either skin or hematoma like presentation. What is that? Is that her skin right up over her right eye? Or is that a hyperpigmentation? Is that her skin?
Yeah. It seems to be her skin, and then in the center of her forehead, there's
Uh-huh.
another area of discoloration. So the two areas in front here, the lobes in front here, they seem to be the color of her skin,
Okay.
and then there's discoloration in the center and to the side. This, whatever it is very selective, as you've said. It's extremely selective based on my observation. one who's trained in science, I'm troubled when I see certain things. I ask many questions, as science has taught us to do. Why is this happening? What's the cause of this? What's the possible reason for this? And like you, I cannot find many because I
Well,
know that
I cannot give you answers. I do not know what the answers are because, and I'll tell you why I can't give you answers. They do not fall into the normal pattern of what we expect. And
wow,
why do we know the normal pattern? Because we know what death looks like. We've studied it. We know what the body does. Hence the reason I'm able to explain the things to you at not just a superficial level, at a level that even physicians and apparently nurses who are on here can say, yes, that's the way it's supposed to go.
they're agreeing with you. They are. And so, Doc, our baby, this girl, Adriana, was removed from this environment. Um, it was a raucous. It was crazy. You're not a criminologist. So, but a lot happened. No samples were taken at the scene. Nobody was there. They didn't cordon off the area. They didn't have a tent around her body to say we'll take preliminary samples. Nothing. No swabbing was done. Nothing at the scene. We were told that she was taken to a hospital where the doctor confirmed, of course, that she was dead on presentation. Then she went to the mortuary. About 3 or 4 days or so later, they brought these pathologists because they said they bring in independent pathologists to examine. They claimed they were
Why did they
forensic
need
pathologists
pathology?
because they wanted to say that many people don't trust the state or the agencies of the state here because many things can happen in our country, have happened. What should be routine became very unusual.
Oh,
As I
wow.
said, I'm trying for us to really focus on the medical part of it, but just to give you an idea, from the 23rd at 1:30 or so, 1:35, 2 o'clock, her family would have been saying, other people saying, they need to find the girl. Where's the girl? Policemen were standing in front of a door of this hotel because the police of the hotel saying nobody is allowed to really go and search freely for the girl who they said she's in there. We got a story from the police that they have a video of the girl leaving in a car with some man. Her father thankfully said, and her mother said, we're not leaving. We're not going anywhere. Show us the video right here, right now. And this is an assistant commissioner of police saying that to the girl's mother. Go home. It's all right. We have a video of her. The lady said, I'm not going anywhere to sleep. You cannot tell me go home and I can't find my child. That's the reality we face. So there are many suspicions that would have arisen out of this situation. When the girl was found, when Adriana was found, after we found Adriana, they said, you know what? We don't trust y'all. So the government, the administration trying to appease, say, okay, we're going to bring 3 independent pathologists. First of all, the president recommended 1. And we said, and people said no. So the family said and we now have evidence, some evidence presented where they requested 1 guy who was not allowed to come. They brought 2 other people. So we are now at the place where they're supposed to examine Adriana's body in what's called a postmortem autopsy, for us to see what happened. So this, of course, has been a very, very critical day, very tense, highly emotional. Everybody wants answers. We were promised that once they go in and they perform this meticulous examination, there'll be a report, preliminary one. There'll be interactions with the media where persons can ask questions and so on and have some ideas of what happened when the doctors are done. Dr. Culmer, there was no interaction with any media personnel, nothing. But I want to share with you what an endocrinologist said, who was claimed to be the family doctor. So there are 4 of them, there are 3 pathologists, and there's 1 who was there to observe. According to what we found out, what they said, he represents the family's interest. Please listen to what this guy said. This doctor, who said he was there to represent the family's interest. Where is he? I'll find him in a minute for you. Very interesting. I hope I don't click on the top on the wrong video, but I'm trying to find it. First, let me play what the president. Let me play what the doctor said. Here's it.
Dr. Paul, myself, attorney at law Darren Wade, Sir Brian, Amicia, Amika, the grandmother, the whole family. We had a meeting with the three forensic pathologists that the government provided for the family. Now, the moment I walked into that meeting, like I continue to share my views that before even going to the meeting, I knew, like many others, that this young lady was drowned, right? Somebody drowned her, or the cause of death was drowning. We knew this. The moment the pathologists, they were talking, I interrupted them. Again, the family members can attest to this. Mr. Wade can attest to this also. I said, listen, I need you guys to do two things for me. The first thing you're going to help us with, this is what I want you guys to do, to determine time of death. Now, because of the time, rigor mortis and all these things, they're actually got no value after so many days. I asked them if they can tell us time of death, not time of death in terms of the hour. If they can tell me if she died the afternoon, the night, or the following morning. I made that quite clear. The doctors informed me that based on the time, it's a bit impossible. I asked them, I said to them, no, when we go in and we find water in her lungs, those are my exact words. When we go in and we find water in her lungs, I want you guys to be able to tell me or tell us if this water came from a tap pipe or this water came from the pool. Will you guys be able to determine this for us? They responded also in a negative.
Doctor. I'm not a doctor. Help us, please.
I don't understand what he said. I think he said, and I tend to write notes because I'm slower than the average bear. It sounded as though he said, the moment I walked in, I knew, or we knew, that she
We agree.
drowned.
Correct. We are correct.
Yeah, that's what he said. So medicine isn't a science of consensus. I know we all think it is. I know we all think it is. And Tony Fauci has done an excellent job of making us believe that it is. Medicine is not a science of consensus. The reason why most of us get into medicine is that it speaks independently. And it doesn't work because you say it works. It is because it is. There's no physician that's going to be able to say how she died without looking at her, examining her, and having an ME to fully examine her. That's not done. So I think there probably is a part of that clip that's missing. He may have had some additional information, and
No, he said that before they went in, they had a meeting because he was speaking to the press prior, and he said, we're going to have a meeting now and we'll get back to you. This doctor said
maybe
that
he had
before they went in, the
did he
medical
have
examiners,
a meeting with the forensic pathologists, and they decided?
He spoke with them before the autopsy was done, before they got in there to open the Adriana. They had this conversation and they all agreed. I'm bothered. I am perplexed. I cannot fathom that I heard that. But I said maybe as a doctor you can help us to understand and rationalize what he's saying. Why do an autopsy then if you can agree beforehand that, oh, this is what happened to the person?
I really wish I could. And I honestly, I feel terrible because it seems to me all I'm saying to you tonight is I don't know. I honestly don't know. I can't tell you how he could make a diagnosis of and then agree on it. Like, we agreed. With what evidence? That's the question. What is the evidence that he's
okay? So here it is. Because I'm working with your brain now, the way you function. If I see this and I say, well, we agree that she drowned, I would have asked the question. No, we can't agree because I don't see her body bloating. She was found in a pool, floating in a standing position. Within 24 hours, it takes 1 day to 3 days, 24 to 72 hours for someone to rise surface in a pool. This person is floating within 20 hours, so something is wrong. Again, basic questions could have been asked. I
Everything is
can't agree with
inconsistent.
that.
There's just too many inconsistencies. Okay. So I'm going to need you to take a piece of paper and write on the piece of paper greater than 24 hours, greater than 6 hours, and less than 6 hours. Because that's the only way this is going to be understood. It's going to become very confusing. And I'm going to riddle off a couple of things. And then maybe you can help answer the questions for me because I'm lost. So if
Wow.
if it's greater than 6 hours, rigor mortis more than likely is going to set in place.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond 4 to 6 hours, what happens is the normal flora, that is the biome on the skin, the bacteria and the viruses that are on the skin, that are in the intestines, they wreak havoc. And even for someone that is submerged, they multiply and they release methane gases and all sorts of different gases that under normal circumstances, your body would not allow them to do it uncontrolled.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the fact
Wow.
that the body no longer has the ability to protect itself, the immune system has ceased to operate because the mitochondria are dead, because the blood no longer is flowing, the heart has stopped, the brain is no longer sending instructions, the nerves are no longer sending instructions. Those bacteria go on auto drive. They release a significant amount of gases. And as a result of that, after 6 to 8 to 10 hours, the body itself begins to self digest, becomes putrefied. It
Ah,
starts to have smells and odors and it develops air. And I think I heard you saying something in the beginning.
yes.
So it is those
Bloating. Yeah.
air, it is that air that causes the body that has a higher density than water, that by the way, to resubmerge to the top. So if it is well beyond 6 to 12 hours, there should have been a significant amount of gases that would have caused her to resubmerge. That is actually something that is logical and very scientific. Okay. The next thing is if it is in fact beyond 6 hours, we discussed this at length, there should be rigor mortis.
Yeah.
If it is not beyond 4 to 6 hours, the body is going to be quite flexible. If you are saying that the gentleman that died several days afterwards had only been in the pool or the water for 10 hours, but you're saying that he was in rigor, it's proof
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah.
It's proof of concept. And we don't need proof. This is clear, well documented. Any doctor worth his salt can tell you that this is what happens. So let's talk to making a diagnosis without examining a patient. It's not done. We don't make diagnoses on consensus. Now we hear information and we can make inferences based on some information. But any doctor worth his salt is going to have the evidence. If there's no evidence that of what you purport to say, you're not going to say it. The evidence would come from the medical examiner. The evidence would come from the photos. The evidence would come from him seeing the patient and examining the patient himself. The evidence would come from labs, from tissue samples, and things of that
Right.
nature.
Right. Right.
For him to say that, because if he has to sign his John Hancock on a document and say cause of death is drowning, that puts him at medical legal risk.
Oh.
How did he know she drowned? Because everything that we're seeing is causing us to ask questions. How could he say, and that's why I'm saying to you, a part of it must have been cut, because it sounds like he's saying we came to a consensus and agreed that she drowned. I'm assuming, and I'm going to assume this
Mhm.
because I couldn't assume it to be any other way, that we is referring to the MEs, the medical examiners, the forensic
Mhm.
pathologists. He and those individuals got together and decided based on the sample of the tissue, the lung examination,
No,
everything else that they.
no, brother. No, they didn't touch the girl before they went in. They did not lay a finger account. Let me see if I misheard what he said. I hear very well. I don't miss things so easily. Let's go again. Let's see.
To Paul, myself, attorney at law Darren Wade, so Brian, Amicia, Amika, the grandmother, the whole family. We had a meeting with the three forensic pathologists that the government provided for the family. Now, the moment I walked into that meeting, like I continue to share my views that before even going to the meeting, I knew, like many others, that this young lady was drowned, right? Somebody drowned her, or she, cause of death was drowning. We knew this. The moment the pathologists, they were talking, I interrupted them. Again, the family members can attest to this. Mr. Wade can attest to this also. I said, listen, I need you guys to do two things for me. The first thing you're going to help us with, this is what I want you guys to do, to determine time of death. Now, because of the time, rigor mortis and all these things, they're actually have got no value after so many days. I asked them if they can tell us time of death, not time of death in terms of the hour. If they can tell me if she died the afternoon, the night, or the following morning. I made that quite clear. The doctors informed me that based on the time, it's a bit important. I asked them, I said to them, no, when we go in and we find water in our lungs, those are my exact words. When we
So let me stop there. Hear that? When we go in and we find water,
Okay.
so they weren't in. And that is what's perplexing. That's what's troubling to me. To hear someone say to these pathologists that when we go in there, we'll find water in our lungs. How do you know that?
The good doctor obviously is basing his statements on some information that he has. And I think it would probably prove us, or the teams that are investigating this, to ask him, how did he get to the conclusions that he did? Because
Wow.
obviously I'm not sure. The other thing is that if she drowned, when did she drown? When did she drown? Clearly, she had not gone into rigor mortis, despite what he's saying about rigor mortis and something of that
Can,
nature.
can you see? Can you see this, doc?
I can see that. That's a
Okay.
pool.
A video was sent to me. I want to play it for you. That's when her father was taken out of the water. So I'll play this for you. Okay.
Okay?
I'll play the video. I'll solo. I'll put myself on the screen so that the viewers can see this.
Sure.
Okay. Let me play the video for you.
Oh, wow.
So you see when her father dives into the pool. That's her there.
Oh, my.
That's her father. Let's see what happens to her body. Look at her head.
Oh, my.
So that's as much as I got.
Oh, my. So
Let me exit solo
it was
layout.
clear, that her arms were limp enough, her head fell back. There were some very, very clear signs. So, when did she drown? if she drowned. Let's go with that hypothesis. She drowned. And he said either she drowned or someone um, hurt her and they killed her. When did she drown? Because I was writing some of the things you said. The last time she was seen was at the 23rd at 10:30
At 1:30 in the afternoon. Yeah, just
p.m.
about.
And then she was seen at 10 a.m. the next day. That pool doesn't seem to be the type of pool. Well, you could see that pool. You could see at the bottom of that pool. And if there was a search, that means she was not in the pool. So if we are saying that she drowned many hours ago, she clearly, one, would have had rigor mortis. Two, very simply, she would have been in the pool. If I take a quarter and throw a quarter in the pool, that's a 25-cent piece. You'd be able to see it at the bottom of
There you go. I thought so.
Yeah, you'd be able to see it at the bottom. There is a degree of refraction if we want to be true to the purist,
Right, the bending of light, right.
Exactly. And you would know, you would remember this better than I would. But according to the physics, there's a bit of refractory. And the only thing that does is it causes the object to appear in a space that's a couple of centimeters or feet or inches based on the refractory, the density of the water, etc. But it would be in a different space than where it actually is. So if you're trying to hit it, you want to aim based on the refractory, but it's in the pool. It's in the pool. So a whole body, a young lady that is 4 feet 11 inches tall, there's no way you could miss her. So if she was in the pool and you looked for her body and it's not in the pool, and then the next day at 10 a.m., you find her body in the pool, and her body is not in rigor mortis, first of all, there's no question that she wasn't in that pool.
Okay, right.
If she wasn't in the pool, I don't think my 16 years of school or 18 years worth of school is needed for that. She wasn't in the pool. Except you're saying that this is a pool that's like 80 feet deep, and I don't know. I can't see the pool. I don't know. Maybe in Guyana, you guys have 80 feet deep pools.
No, this is 8 feet deep.
8 feet, not 80.
Not 80, 8.
So you can see the bottom of the pool, and the relatives went and searched, and they searched the pool. She's not there. And I don't know if I misunderstood you, but they were restricted with access at some point, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And that's at 1:30. And so at 10 a.m. the next day, she's in the pool. Okay. So if she's in the pool, if she drowned, it wasn't in this pool yesterday. And then there's a senior police officer who says she was with a young man. So did the young man hurt her and bring her back and put her in the pool? Because she died.
But they found that she never left with any young man. And Doc, I want us to, again, just for the sake of reinforcement. You see the video here. You can see on frame. I'll leave you here. Because I want us to observe. Look at her legs. Her legs are closed here, right? Her thighs. Her thighs are closed. Okay, let's look at this video to how her legs were in the pool. If she died 20 hours before. Let's look at the video here. Let's see if you can see her legs. Look at her legs, Doc.
Clearly.
They're wide apart.
Clearly wider. Much wider. And to be quite honest with you, I don't know if it's your video, but it appears as though because of the momentum of the pool, there's a little bit of movement of her body.
Correct.
Right? You can see
and her legs are wide apart in the pool. But here,
her neck. Well, when her dad grabbed her, you could see where her neck was suppled and the head fell back just a little bit.
Let me pull that back for you.
Okay, look, you see? Look, there you go.
Right there.
All right.
Indeed.
So
yep.
Dad,
right there.
You go. So dad shifts his body, and if you notice, her arm actually curves around his body.
Around him.
So,
correct.
And if you show the body on the okay. All right. So there's a bit of a curvature of the arm, but not curved enough to carry how it was curved around his body, right? So a body that's in rigor mortis would maintain its posture. It doesn't move 4 to 5 inches. It maintains its posture.
So that means sorry for interrupting, but that means her legs, her thighs would not be in this position here. Because in
No,
the pool
no,
they were wide apart.
in the
Now we're
pool
seeing their clothes here.
they were about 2 feet 2 feet apart, right? And if we want to look at it as a triangle way down, remember the
Right.
three sides of the triangle. If our two legs are one side and it's an imaginary line between the bottom, the length of that would have probably been a little more than 1 foot to 2 feet. And if you look at her feet or her knees in this picture, the knees are. Can you get
Inches.
a ruler between that? That's not going to allow her feet to be 2 to 3 feet apart. So her body is flexible. Her body is giving. Her body is not rigid. So none of this is in keeping with the timeline that you're giving to me. I'm
Wow.
sorry. Everything that you're saying, I can't put the pieces together.
Wow.
I can't
I'm
put the
so
pieces
grateful,
together.
and I'm grateful for you. And I need to play the words of our president. He would have
Okay.
sat to read to us. I don't know if in your country this has ever happened, where the head of state, not the minister, the head of state, not minister of health, decided to sit and read to us. Apparently he was reading something. What he said was the pathologist, these three pathologists, the information he gives to him. I need to play that for you. Given all those presented to you as a doctor, this is what we're told as the Guyanese public. Let me find it for you. The words of the president of this country.
Today, as I said, was an important day in evaluating the circumstances and the death of Adriana. And I just want to briefly share with you what was shared with the police representative and shared with me. The forensic pathologists, as you know, as Frank said, were brief, and they started the work sometime around 1:20 p.m. That's when upon completing the procedure, the forensic pathologists rule out signs of physical and sexual trauma on Ms. Young's body. After careful deliberation, the team concluded that Ms. Young died as a result of drowning. Ms. Young's relatives were briefed following the examination and informed of the medical cause of death. Due to the state of the decomposition of Ms. Young's body, the pathologists were unable to provide an exact time of death. The relatives were also informed that the pathologists ruled out theories of forcible drowning or any other means of killing, followed by disposal of the body in water. So that was what.
The words of the president of Guyana, that the pathologists, these pathologists ruled out that she was put in the pool. How do you do that as a doctor? Please help me to understand it. I'm not a doctor. But I mean, you may know pathologists. You may have friends or colleagues who are. Given all that I've presented to you, can you tell us as Guyanese and other nationalities who are watching this broadcast, how do we even try to make sense of what we just heard?
So if we are saying that she was drowned, then that means she would have drowned 20 hours ago. You have an individual that drowned 20 hours ago. Let's assume that everybody missed her. She was in the pool and no one saw her. Let's assume that. Because you're asking me questions that I can't actually help with, and I'm having to make great leaps
I
in order to put
understand.
them together. If she drowned 20 hours ago, and for whatever reason, the individuals who went to search for her in the pool weren't able to see her. How is it that she's not in rigor mortis and her body presents that way after 20 hours? And after 20 hours, there isn't, with all due deference to the president, the pathologist made a report of decomposition. There is, but not to the extent where the decomposition after 20, it's not been 24 hours. The decomposition wouldn't be so severe that the cellular integrity wouldn't be intact. So you couldn't secure tissue samples and make decisions, biochemical decisions, forensic decisions, microscopic decisions on the cellular activity, how the cells of the lungs, the cells of the parenchyma, the cells of the alveoli, the cells of the blood vessels of the heart, the cardiac cells, how they look under micro or macroscopic scenarios, or with chemical staining. They would not have been so poorly decomposed at 20 hours that one would not be able to.
But they did the autopsy, I think 3 days later, three or 4 days afterwards. But she would have been stored. Her body would have been kept in a mortuary, in a morgue, right? So, but still, we heard about this state of decomposition. But then, when another attorney came, he took over the case. He said, "Well, the girl's body is good." And that's after this postmortem was done, after the autopsy was done, after the president said what he said, after he said the pathologist told him that due to the state of decomposition, he couldn't determine an average time of death. The doctor said, "Hey, no."
I'll go back to the same statement, because what happens when you freeze something is you keep the cells that are intact. It's just
Exactly.
Frozen. You prevent any of the toxins that causes the external parts of the cell wall, the cell membrane, from being broken down by the calcium that's being released, et cetera, the toxins that would break the walls. If the walls of the cells are broken down, and you have trillions of cells that are broken down, then it's hard to make rhyme or reason of anything.
Yeah.
But if you freeze something, the integrity of the cell walls will still be intact. And I'm going to take a leap and assume that the body would have been placed in the morgue, where she would have been kept, as per international standards anywhere.
Correct.
I'm certain it would have been.
Correct.
So I'm not clear on what happened there.
Troubling indeed, isn't it?
She investigated.
It is. So the final video I'll show you before we leave is not one that has to do with medicine, but with common sense, because you spoke to it, and I was intrigued by that you'd have said that without even having a look at this video, because pools are built or should be constructed with safety in mind. That's why they were designed how they're designed. So they're blue normally, but they have clear water in them to mimic real world, like the sky. So it's easy to see a bird across the sky. Let me play this video for you. Now, this video would have occurred would have been taken or recorded on the night of the 23rd. Where an individual, he had some exclusive access. He said he made a call. He's from the government, not a minister or anything. He's an associate of theirs. So he said he called somebody, and they say, okay, then he can come inside. He got in there and he began to take footage.
Mm-hmm.
Now look at this video, please.
Management. I said, we're going out with the cameras. There's a female washroom here. There's a bar here. The management explained to me that when you come, and if you're going to use the pool, and as you can see, you see the pool here, clear. Like when the family said they went in the pool and check, everybody went in the pool and check. Normally, you ain't got to check if there's a body in this pool. You could see it because the pool is clear, right? So, obviously, the young lady, the 11-year-old who has gone missing from this place is not in this pool, right? So I walking around, I look in, I talk to management before I talk to the mother and the father to make sure I have an inclusive story. Everybody knows what's going on, why it's going on, and so on, right? So you got the pool here.
I'm
This
sorry.
guy,
Is there a timestamp on that video?
this video was taken the night, I think after 10,
On the
on the
24th?
23rd. No, on the 23rd, the 23rd,
I
the
thought you said
23rd.
no. I thought you said the last sighting was the 23rd at 1:30 p.m.
Right. So she was swimming with her family in the afternoon, early in the day.
Right.
At about 1:30, 1:35 or so, they couldn't find her. She got out of the pool. She went apparently to the restroom or somewhere, and she never returned. So an alarm was raised later on, and the grandmother said, okay, then where's this girl? People said, okay, automatically just check the pool. So they were searching the pool. There was someone who was teaching some people to swim. They were diving in the pool and all that. Nobody found this girl. So a ruckus started. People started becoming upset and saying they need to find the girl. And night came. The night came. There was still an issue, a standoff with the police and the father, community members, and so on. It was a crowd, and people started getting agitated. This fellow who you heard here, he's one who would interview the president, interview a guy who's known as a vice president, one of the vice presidents, and so on. And he got access. So he went in there to show us that the girl is not in the pool. That's on the 23rd now. He went to say, listen, the girl is not here. The next morning is when the girl would have been found at 10 or so, because people searched the pool. Even that the 24th, they searched it again, and she wasn't there. Dr. Culmer, would you believe that this same individual who you just heard in that video is now saying that the pool was cloudy?
But we could see the pool.
So can I. We can all see.
We could see the pool. The unfortunate thing is that, boy, it's a lot of holes and inconsistencies. These things are supposed to make sense. And there's very little that I can probably add to this, because I can only speak to a system of things that actually makes sense. And there's a significant amount of holes or gaps in the entire story. As physicians, we become investigators because we need to know what actually caused the problem, so as to not to put a Band-Aid on something that actually needs to be removed. So we do a lot of investigation, and so we're asking a lot of questions. And if I were to have hypothetically something like this brought to my attention, there would be a significant amount of questions and answers, questions that needed to be answered. I have a lot of concerns about the entire story, and I'm not clear on it. It's clear that some other factors are missing in order for us to have a really clear story to make sense of it.
I cannot make sense of it, and I'm so grateful that I would have had this opportunity to sit with you, because I know that you're blatantly honest, just to the point in reference to your processing. It's healthy for us in Guyana because we need this. I want to share something further with you.
Okay.
If you're here in this country right now, and you were saying these things to me out of this situation, you could be arrested and be called a terrorist. You see that?
I don't
See what I'm saying here? Thank you. Someone who's this is a nursing assistant. She was speaking in a vehicle, in a private space to somebody, and she was saying to the person, the girl didn't drown, and she was saying that she was there in the room. They said she lied. She wasn't there. But she was saying many things don't add up. The girl was arrested. because the person she was speaking to recorded her secretly. She even said to the man, I hope you're not recording me, you know. The guy recorded her speaking privately in a car or a vehicle, some vehicle of some sort, and got the information, the recording out somewhere. This is a private conversation. The girl was arrested. The girl is now incarcerated, awaiting trial for terrorism.
Are we talking about the same thing? Am I
The
misunderstanding what
same
you're saying?
thing. No, you're not. The same thing. I could be called a terrorist tomorrow morning because of this Adrianna Younge situation. This is the Caribbean. This is supposed to be a country where freedom of speech is afforded to all Guyanese. This is a country in which you are free according to law to even express a thought. But in this case, you can't even say it privately, or you're deemed a terrorist. That's I want the audience to notice Dr. Culmer's expression. Please take note of his expression because he's from the Caribbean, studied in the US, but he cannot relate to what I'm saying.
I know I don't understand what you're saying. It sounds as though you're talking about thought police, statement police. You can't articulate a thought.
No, that is contrary to what they said.
That is contrary to what a certain group of people have framed as the narrative.
Yes, correct. Which is why you're here. That's why I have you here. Because doctors in our country
Right.
cannot do what you've done at this time for
Or
fear of being arrested and being called terrorists.
what is
Facing
the
15 years in jail.
what is the definition of terrorist in
Well,
this instance?
as far as I know, not in this one, I don't know what they mean by terrorism because terrorism speaks to having a political or religious ideology intended
I
to
know
spread
what
harm or hurt and fear.
terrorism is, but it clearly is not what the what the definition is. So I'm
No,
asking, so help me understand it.
Dr. Kalma, you have to help me to understand it because I can't. Remember, I'm consumed by the affairs of this country. I'm consumed by what's happening, and I'm trying to ask someone outside of outside of Ghana, beyond the boundaries, to help me to understand how can I be deemed a terrorist if I say that girl didn't drown. That makes me a terrorist in this country today.
I don't, and legally that stands.
She is before the court. She was arrested. She was charged, and she would have to wait trial. And she faces up to 15 years in jail for simply saying that she was in the room when she saw the girl's lungs. It didn't matter anything that anybody would have drowned. She felt as though people were lying. And because of that, they said, well, first of all, you weren't there. That's what they said. And so because you spread misinformation and they said that she sought to pervert the course of justice. Mind you, she wasn't given a witness statement. She wasn't speaking to the police. She never made a Facebook post. She never made an Instagram post. She never said anything publicly. This is a private conversation in a vehicle that somebody secretly recorded and leaked. And they said that right there is terrorism. Is it not insane? Believe me, I can understand. I can understand the perplexity which is exhibited on your face. I can surely understand it because I'm equally perplexed. I am. And she has 4 children, 2 siblings. Her mother and father passed away. One is 13, I think the other 11. She has a suckling 1-year-old. And this mother is in jail for speaking privately and being recorded unknowingly. Just for having another thought that synchronizes with yours. That is the reality of your sister CARICOM nation called Guyana, the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. That is our reality here for this one little girl Adriana situation. This one little girl situation has become that serious.
So what is happening? I mean, I'm not even a doctor anymore. I'm completely. It, that's draconian.
It is.
I'm not. I'm not even being funny. I mean, like, what are you saying to me? It sounds like you're describing the Communist Republic of China.
Thank you. Or North Korea.
North Korea better because is it North or South Korea? It's North Korea,
North,
correct?
North, no, no, North, yes. North. Kim Jong-il or Kim
Yes.
Jong-un. That's what we're dealing with here.
So if we're looking at the facts, and the facts as they know them is what they would have relayed to you. You see, because truth doesn't require anybody to support it.
No.
Truth
That's
doesn't
good.
require support.
No.
And most people don't know that. Whenever a group of individuals or an individual is attempting to manipulate and control the narrative, one of the only things that they have is to say what they say, to say it loudly, repeat it, and drum out any other noise.
Yeah.
Truth doesn't require support. And so if it is the truth, it will stand. If there's an attempt to drum out, like an attempt almost legally, which is confusing to me, that lends to a significant amount of questions. What is going on?
There you go. So as a doctor, given the way you process, you'd automatically begin to think, now what else is behind this? Why are people be so serious about or going to that extent to imprison someone for simply having a private conversation about a matter that a view they're expressing, even if it's an absolute lie? It's a private conversation, even if it were public. And I say,
What
listen, I don't think the girl was drunk. So what?
what I'm saying exactly. What I'm saying is, in the absence of any definitive answers, even if what she's saying is a lie, it won't stand. So there is no support. There is no. I could not imagine what the Guyanese community benefits from only having a singular narrative when it is absolutely unclear as to what would have happened. Absolutely, equivocally unclear.
It is. So,
That's
so
Coniac.
I know you had a long day, and I'm certainly grateful for your spending the time with us here. But you may read the news tomorrow that I've been arrested and charged with terrorism. It's I have to laugh because it's that stupid. It is absolutely idiotic. You know, I remember this. This reminds me of what they call the COVID time. I remember that
Yeah,
you couldn't say anything, or you could lose license, you could lose this, you could lose your job, you could lose. Oh my God!
I did.
This one situation reminded me of this one right here, where people
I
were
did.
doctors were threatened, say
Yeah,
this or else.
yeah. I I
Yeah.
I was I was amongst the choir.
Wow.
I was
Say
amongst the
this or
choir.
else.
I'm on an island where I shouldn't do this because this is not how the scripture tells us to operate, but the truth is the truth. I'm on an island that is probably, of all 700 islands, the singular island where COVID hit, where there was not one singular death. There was not one singular death.
Wow.
Um, there was not one singular person on the island that became sick and had to fly out to the mainland for care.
Wow.
And those are, and frankly, it's because of the fact that we put a lot of time and research into preparing ourselves to care for our
Yeah.
COVID patients. So
Yeah.
no one we saw died. No one. Matter of fact, statistically speaking, within 3 days, within 2 days of starting care, 95% of our clients completely resolved, and did.
Wow.
However,
Wow.
we did experience some of the things that you're speaking about and have the documents to prove it. But you know, like I said, the
Yeah.
truth doesn't require anybody to support it. I'm going to be on the
No.
side of truth.
I'm so grateful for you, doctor. And so to the audience, um, I hope you can see the comments thereafter, but no one with a modicum of common sense and wisdom would disagree with what you've done, because what you've done is you've brought a lot of help to us, a lot of comfort to us who are saying that this entire situation did not make sense given what we heard. As one who's a medical professional, you certainly spoke clearly to us regarding the ethics involved in saying that before you even touch a human being who's deceased, who's died, you can make a determination. Oh yeah, that person drowned in such a sensitive situation. Three can agree, and a fourth can say, yes, okay, let's go then. We know what happened. Let's go ahead. You have clarified so many things for us, especially regarding rigor mortis. And we have video footage to show that what you said ties us into a timeline of probably less than 6 hours. Has to be. So we have an idea that it had to have been on the 24th before maybe 4 a.m. or just about. Adriana would have breathed her last. It's helpful to me to reason in that manner. And because I know the beauty of having a medical doctor who's a professional speak to people, I could not choose a better person. And I must say I'm grateful. So your closing remarks, if there are any, but I must say thank you on behalf of all Guyanese who want to know the truth.
Well, it was a pleasure being here. We're grateful to the Most High for allowing us to participate, particularly under such circumstances. And again, our prayers with the entire nation of Guyana, because I, like you said, she's our daughter. I think it's
Yes.
beyond Guyana now. You have persons in many, many nations hearing about this, and the clarion call is out. Persons, people want justice. You know, do you know that there's close to a million kids that go missing in the United States? And we have statistics worldwide about what's happening with children. Children are
Yeah.
precious, they're
Yes.
innocent. And if we do not stand for our kids,
Wow.
good night.
I understand. Thank you. Bye, my brother. Thank you so much, Dr. Culmer. Viewers, you've heard it. You've heard it loudly. You've heard it clearly. You've heard very, very clear-cut scientific medical arguments and presentations from Dr. Culmer. We are wiser. We are more informed. And as a result of that, we therefore cry louder for justice for Adriana. Can you imagine what it would be like if truly independent pathologists, forensic pathologists, and criminologists were to take this case in hand and say, let us examine, let us go through the details, let us see videos, let us hear what onlookers were saying? Can you imagine what it would have been like? But also, Guyanese, can you imagine that tomorrow morning you can see splash across the news, and many will be happy to see that, huh? Splash across the news, I'm in handcuffs or I have to hold a mug, a placard in front of me with my information on it. A Guyanese of African descent charged with terrorism for doing what I do now. Well, make me a terrorist because I would not change my posture ever. At least I'll be a living terrorist, according to your definition, PPP. But Adriana is not with us. And my daughter will not be another statistic who escapes because somebody knows someone who knows someone who knows someone and who can call someone, who can threaten someone, and who can seek to intimidate someone into silence. Wrong address, not me. Thank you, and do well.